So welcome to this first new series of webinars in which I'll be putting the art of contemplation into action. And as you may or may not know, contemplation, well, it's my thing. And it's the word I use for a deep penetration into the heart of any problem or mystery in life. And so when you understand how to contemplate, then you begin to move deeper into the fabric of your own life. And your awareness becomes more refined, your self-acceptance deepens, and your whole worldview becomes more compassionate. And like meditation, contemplation is a powerful and viable life path in itself. But it's also an art. Anyone can learn it, although it isn't really a technique. It's more of a knack of using your mind in combination with your heart and your intuition. And it can lead to powerful breakthroughs that ultimately will make your life much easier and more enjoyable. So I hope as you witness my own contemplative journey through these webinars, that you'll be inspired to also employ the contemplative approach and bring its beneficent, calming power into your own life. And the subject today is money. Contemplation can be playful, but it can also be fiercely penetrating. So it's therefore designed to release us from viewpoints that we hold without even realizing that we hold those viewpoints. So money is a great place to begin. It's one of the classic issues that traps our thinking and that can literally sabotage an entire life from ever being joyous or from ever feeling free. You know, I love cliches, and they almost always conceal deep wisdom. So let's take a few. Money makes the world go round. Money makes the world go round. It's kind of true. I mean, the way we've set up our modern societies, you know, the current world economic model has its roots in the Middle Ages, you know, when free trade began its ascent. And as people pulled themselves out of the older hierarchical system, the fiefdoms, and the first entrepreneurs were born. I mean, we always had this bartering consciousness, but we never before had such a complex system of accounting and taxes and all of that. And there's another cliche, you know, that the only certain thing is death and taxes. Particularly like that one. But we also existed before money. We existed without money. In an earlier and simpler age, you know, we had no money at all. And I'm sure we traded in goods or skills because that seems to be natural human behavior, to share, to exchange, to cooperate. But in time, money became our currency and our means of doing this and our means of relating with strangers or getting to know and trust or distrust each other. And now we have a world that does completely revolve around money. So yes, it does make the world go round, but it also makes our heads spin around. So my contemplation is all about how to avoid that head spin. Whether you're rich and you have more than enough money, or whether you're struggling without enough money, you're still spinning. Money makes us spin. It drives us crazy. And you know why? Because money equates to time. Time is money. That's my final cliche. I always have to have three. I like trinities. So whether you're rich or poor, money consumes your time. It consumes your thinking. And it makes your life often more complicated. Or so we think. But it doesn't have to be this way. Money only has a charge if you give it one. It's the same with anything. You know, money can either trap you or it can set you free. It's all a matter of how you hold it inside you. And this is where money and spirituality meet. And these two are not often comfortable bedmates. I consider myself a spiritual man, I've always been fascinated by the mysteries that we can't see that lie beyond our senses and our measurements. And like many, I've had direct experiences of other dimensions, and I've spent a lifetime contemplating and exploring the hidden and the mystical. But that's all very well. I know many people who've fallen into that wormhole of the spiritual world and have never been able to integrate their experiences into ordinary, everyday life. And if we can't integrate the spiritual dimensions into the material world, I think at some level we've missed the point. I would even say that we're out of tune with where evolution seems to be heading. So this is a great challenge. And I also may be uniquely positioned to talk about this challenge, since I'm in the unenviable position of speaking and teaching about spiritual matters and also having to charge for them sometimes. Now, for some people that's sacrilege, and the problem is that we're split, and in so many things we're split. The human brain, it tends to divide into religious and scientific, into male and female, into subjective and objective. But the contemplative approach unifies the polarities. So you can only have a really balanced view of life when you look at it both scientifically and spiritually. So our problem is time. Time is money. And that's very true for most people. But it's only true until you learn to slow down. So pause for a moment. For one moment in your day, take a pause. Stop in the middle of a task and take a few deep breaths. Just pause. You know, the spiritual teacher Gurdjieff, he called this technique self-remembering. You know, claim back some time for yourself. Claim back some of yourself in every day. We don't have to be slaves to money. You know, but first of all, we have to see how deeply we've allowed ourselves to become a slave. And your ability to see how deeply you've become a slave is in direct relation to how much time you either spend thinking about money, worrying about money, or trying to make more money. And this is the same whether you're rich or whether you're poor. Once you see through your fixation, then you can start claiming back large swathes of time back for yourself. So we all have this illusion that having more money buys us more time. I think it's just about one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. The only thing that buys us more time is awareness. Awareness. That's the ultimate currency because it's free. It's current. It brings you into the moment. Isn't that a funny pun? Currency. So that's where we have to begin. Begin with awareness. Everyone wants to have more money because everyone really wants to have more time. But we're all looking in the wrong place for that time. We live at what I call the shadow frequency, where we allow ourselves to become a victim of our own set of beliefs, or at least society's beliefs. But we can escape that rat race because it's inside us. It's not out there. It's a spiritual dilemma we face. And once you've made this inner turning, once you learn to slow down internally, then you begin to breathe differently and time changes. You make more time. It's amazing that we can make more time. Because most people, they simply don't breathe properly. They don't breathe into their belly. And if you don't breathe deeply, then you don't feel calm. So you can't make clear decisions. So you aren't really operating at maximum efficiency. So money can be a means to breathing more deeply. Every time you think about money, see it as an ally. Breathe down into your belly and smile. And I bet you never thought about money like that before. So once you've established a healthy inner relationship to money, then you can rebuild that relationship externally. And you'll do that anyway, because we recreate our inner reality on the external plane. It just happens that way. And this is why changing your beliefs and your views at a deep core physical level is what changes everything. You change the way you're imprinting your DNA, and then you build a new life from the ground up. And what do you think that new life might look like? That's another thing worthy of contemplation. I have a teaching, it's called The Pearl. And it's all about this theme of changing your inner relationship to money. It's about finding prosperity through simplicity. You see, prosperity requires simplicity. Because prosperity is not the same as wealth. Wealth is top heavy. Wealth creates an imbalance. Too much money makes you worry again. It makes your life more complex, unless you give it away. Because then you buy more stuff. You just do. And then you have to manage all that stuff. So prosperity, it's like the water level inside your body. If you don't drink enough, then you're thirsty. And your body doesn't operate properly. But if you drink too much, then your body becomes bloated and other problems arise. So the body has a perfect level of water it needs to run at maximum efficiency. And money's like that. Each person has to have the correct amount moving in and out of their life as a flow. And when you find that flow, your worries are all over. But most people never find that flow. And that flow is unique to each person. And it's deeply connected to our breath. So we have to learn to pause, to breathe, to relax, and then we connect to that flow. In my teaching from the Pearl, I write about prosperity from the angle of the great myths. In particular, I found myself contemplating the great myth of the Holy Grail, one of my favourites. And the Grail myth is a rich composite of pre-Christian and Celtic myths and tales amalgamated over the millennia with Christian Gnostic mysteries. So it's ancient and it's unique, and it's particularly unique because it's a myth of reconciliation rather than a traditional myth of redemption. I'm going to read you a short passage from that. In the myth, the Grail itself represents the possibility of wholeness and healing, although it's been unable to fully heal the king's wound despite its power. The great turning point in the Grail myth comes when the young Percival approaches the wounded king and asks a very simple and very courageous question. How can I serve the Grail? And this question is mythically encoded in the fabric of every human being, and it sleeps in our DNA. Instead of using the Grail to bring about his own wholeness, Percival performs the greatest act of selflessness, wisdom, and generosity. The question is wise because Percival has realized that his own healing is intimately linked to the healing of the whole. And the reason that this myth is so relevant to our contemporary culture is because of one word: generosity. By offering to serve the whole, Percival has transcended the need for divine intervention. He's even sidestepped the need for transformation. He's realized that the opposing forces of nature can only be reconciled through asking the right question and then living the answer. So what does this have to do with money? Well, it's the myth of our time, because we have to realize that our own healing and our own fulfillment is tied up with everyone else's. Everything in the universe is entangled at a quantum level with everything else. So the deepest question you can answer in your life is Percival's question. How can I be of greatest service to the whole? And if you make this question the foundation of your life and all your decisions, then your life will take you on a vast adventure. You'll live your life, not someone else's life. You'll live the highest life as well. You'll unlock what I call your higher life purpose. And this is what Joseph Campbell meant when he said, follow your bliss. He didn't say, follow your pleasure. He said, follow your bliss. Because follow your pleasure, that path leads to misery. bliss is in another dimension entirely from pleasure. To follow your bliss is to offer your life in service to something far greater than you. And that's the foundation of prosperity, generosity. And what about money and spirituality? It's a hot subject. Money has a bad rap in the spiritual world. It's often seen as dirty or unclean. It's often seen as a pollutant or a distraction from the spiritual path, and with good reason. The world is filled with spiritual pimps, people peddling spiritual truths and making a small fortune from it. There have always been such people in the world, snake oil salesmen. And the world would be kind of boring without all those colourful characters. They give us a good test as well, because some of them actually have great and wise teachings, but their integrity might not be quite in the right place. And, being a spiritual teacher or a spiritual leader, it's not that different from being a politician, really. You may get into it for one reason, but then over time it changes you. Success can change you. So the false prophets also serve a great purpose. They test our discernment, but they also often lead us to make a big mistake. I call this the spiritual mistake. And the spiritual mistake, as far as money is concerned, is the belief that spirituality and money can't go together. And we get this from the religions, let's face it, the religious traditions, because you don't have to pay to go to church or to do a religious training. And because of that, we assume that all the spiritual teachings ought to be free. But these big religions, actually, they're not free. That money has to come from somewhere to pay for all that, either from rich benefactors or big major investments or property or whatever it is. The big religions are rich. But they also offer a homogenized version of spirituality. They're the monopolies of the spiritual world. But then you also have the spiritual entrepreneurs, people who bring new streams of spiritual thinking into the world. And they don't have the luxury of those big investors, so they have to charge for their truth. I'm one of these, And why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't they? Why is spirituality any different from any other category of work? Why is it different from being a doctor, or a lawyer, or a therapist, or a plumber, or a gardener? In fact, spirituality contains elements from all those things. It'll show you how to live a healthy life, a life in harmony with the universal laws. It'll also show you how to heal your own wounds and how to unblock your own inner drains. So why should it live outside those other categories? Good question. See, I personally don't believe that spiritual teachings should be cheaper than any other products just because they're spiritual. I don't think that's a healthy belief. My point here is that the spiritual mistake is to separate spirit from matter. In fact, spirit and matter flow from one another. There's no split other than in our mind. And one of the last century's most infamous mystics, Bhagwan Rajneesh, also known as Osho, he said that given the choice whether he could be enlightened in a bullock cart or in a Rolls Royce, he would choose a Rolls Royce every time. And he did. As some of you know, he had many of them. And he liked to use that kind of humour to shock spiritual people. And he was right. There is no split. Money itself is neutral. Only people give it their charge, their opinion, their belief. There's nothing like money to show up a spiritual person, It brings up the spiritual agenda in almost anyone. And in that sense, money is it's a great leveler. It really tests your clarity. And in the New Age, there's a great deal of woolliness around money. Spiritual people aren't generally comfortable discussing it. Business people are generally much clearer and cleaner around financial issues. They tend not to carry the guilt around it. Money is simply what it is, and they wish to increase it for their own reasons, their own benefit. And spiritual people also would like to increase it for their own reasons, but often we're not honest about this. So it's important to be super clean and super clear around money, since it brings up issues so quickly. You can use the art of contemplation to open up the flow of money in your life. But there's nothing mystical about this. It's entirely practical. You have to analyze your time. How much time do you spend with your family? How much time do you spend with your friends? How much time do you spend working? How much time do you spend doing the things you love? A thorough and honest analysis of the way you spend your time will reveal so much to you that is of value. It will show you your unconscious relationship to money. I'm going to read you one of my favourite poems by Mary Oliver, marvellous woman, American. The Summer Day, it's called. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper. I mean the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous, complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And this deep question, as you allow it into your interior being, it will change you. It will make you value your time more. It'll bring a focus on that which is essential to your life. We're all involved in so much that is inessential. So much of our precious time is just thrown away. So claim your time back and claim the money that you need. If you have a product that you've put your heart and soul into, then charge what it's worth. It's good to be generous, but you also need to be generous with yourself. So many spiritual people I know secretly play the lottery. It's true, it's hilarious. Kind of secretly, you know. They're caught in the hope. And there's nothing at all wrong with that. It's absolutely human. But hope and faith, it's not enough. We have to bridge the imaginary split that we feel inside. You have the spiritual people on one side, wanting to change the world for the better, but without the money to do it. And then you have the material people on the other side, unfulfilled, but with all the money. That's the world we live in. So the next phase of our evolution is to bring the two hemispheres of the world brain together. If you're drawn to spiritual things, then your greatest lesson and your greatest challenge is probably to learn about material things. You're here to learn how to make money. Listen to this ancient invocation. It's from the Taittiriya Upanishad. Very ancient piece of writing. An invocation. May I become famous. May I become richer than the richest, so that I may serve you better, sweet Lord. May I enter into you. May you enter into me. May I merge with your thousands of shapes for my purification. As water flows downward, as the months mingle with the year, may students come to me from everywhere, so that I may serve you better, sweet Lord. Isn't that lovely? May I be richer than the richest, so I may serve you, sweet Lord. Doesn't that sound in a way like a big ego? But I tell you it isn't. If it's chanted without guilt or fear or pride, if it's chanted with joy and delight, it's authentic. It's an authentic human voice. The real danger is the spiritual arrogance that accuses others of being egotistic, because they wish to make money. There's a great joy in earning your own money. It's one of the most empowering things a human being can do. And at the same time, it's good to be wary of your own success, because success leads very quickly to decline. That's the pendulum of life at work. And this is one of the great teachings of the Chinese I Ching, which I base my teaching of the gene keys on. So be careful if you achieve material success. Enjoy what you need from it. But if you have excess, quickly give it away. Siphon it somewhere. Share it with others, or it will come back and bite you. This is natural wisdom. Life has its cycles, cycles of success, cycles of decline, and it's all a game. The businessman and the businesswoman, they know it's a game. The spiritual person in another level, they know it's a game. And we have to learn to trust in the flow that's beyond our reach. This is what the Buddhists sometimes referred to as the Dharma, the flow of destiny, the passage of truth as it moves through all our lives. And we must learn to trust in the deeper pattern, that deeper pattern behind our lives. And the more we remember that, the more we flow with that. And the more often we pause, and the more time we spend with the grasshopper. And then the less divided we feel, and the more connected we feel. And I'm talking about, I'm really talking to the affluent here in this video, because everyone watching this, you're affluent. Whether you think you are or not, you are. The reality is that, there are people in the world for whom this is not relevant, actually, because they are on survival in the third world. They are just purely trying to eke out a living and feed themselves and feed their families. And they need our help, absolutely. And so if you're going to earn money, perhaps you might want to think about finding a way to help those less fortunate than yourselves. But for the rest of us, we really are already prospering. And it's important to really see that. There's always someone in a more difficult, more challenging financial state than you are. And that's a really critical thing. Money is essential in order for some people to survive, for everyone to survive, really. But we in the West, it's a different game for us because we really do have enough. One of the things I was thinking about recently is the inner light that's inside us. Because when we seek for money, when we follow that impetus, that out into the world, I want to make more money, I need more money, then I'll be able to do this, then I'll be able to do that. We're actually seeking something else. We're not really looking for money. We're looking for the light. We're looking for the light of our inner consciousness, because that is the only thing that will fulfill us completely and utterly. And that's inside us. It's inside you right now. It's like sickness, When you're ill, after a few days of really being sick, you forget what it's like to feel well. You forget health. You forget that feeling of, this is wonderful, of life, of breath. And it's the same with us around money and our lives. What we've done is we chase all these things in the outside world, and we've forgotten that there's something so precious hiding inside us. There's a state of consciousness inside your heart, inside your body, that is so pervasive, that is so fulfilling, self-fulfilling, that is so at peace, that you don't need anything else at all from life when you touch that. And so when we go out into the world and we chase things like money, really it's a distraction from that which I am. And that's the real key to remember. So use the art of contemplation to make your inner peace with money. And let it be a clean energy in your life. Let it be a means to breathe more deeply, rather than a slave driver that robs you of your vitality and your breath. And let money be your creative muse. You know, enjoy making it. Take pleasure from earning it. Enjoy negotiating. Enjoy spending when needed. But be careful about accumulation. Be careful about accumulating more and more stuff. Enjoy simplifying your life and your thinking around money. Figure out what's essential in your life and make time for that. It probably doesn't even require very much money. But above all, let money bring you closer to the heart of your life. Let it be a means for you to find that inner freedom, that inner place. Hold on to it lightly, give of it generously, and let it increase the light in your life. You may never have thought of money in this way, but I tell you, in the modern world, money can become a great teacher, and it can even assist you on the path to liberation. So, those are some of my musings about money today. I hope that it's been of inspiration to you, and I hope that you'll follow your contemplation on money out into inside yourself, and then see what insights that brings you, and how that can actually lead, instead of to more worry, it can actually lead to more peace. Because that's what this is all really, really about, being here in this material world. Thank you for listening.